This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Members present? We have everybody? Yes, we do. Okay.
Here.
Let's see, who do we have? Michael Varga, John, and Steve Wren. Hi, Steve. Okay. Hear from public. Anything from the public?
Catherine, I think we all got a letter from Paul Varga
Yeah,
that he can't make it, and I would just move that we add his letter to our minutes.
that's fine. Okay. Okay, and we don't, oh, that we have acceptance of minutes there. So first selectmen's briefing. Let me just pull up, I have some notes here. Couple things. We did a mailing to Ashford residents that are 65 and older last week. It was a very busy week. Trying to make sure that got out on time. It was a letter on how to make appointments for COVID vaccinations. That is by computer, phone, getting support from the agent for the elderly and our social services, social and youth services director. Also that we can provide rides. And we also posted that in the March Citizen. When we posted in the Citizen, we made it for ages 55 and up because we heard on Friday or whenever it was that the governor had changed the sequence he was going to do things. We're going to do things in. Included in that mailing as well was a letter about assistance and services that are offered in the town through the agent for the elderly, senior center, social and youth services, senior housing, and veterans agent. They include things like heating assistance, food pantries, and counseling, etc. We posted that in the February Citizen, but we know not everybody reads the Citizen, so we made sure that went into the envelope with the other stuff. In addition, we put in an insert about USDA farm to families distribution of 250 boxes of food, which Melissa McDonough, our social and youth services director, made arrangements for. And so that's a nice segue into the next thing I have to talk about, which is the February 28th Farm to Families food distribution. Previously, we received only 48 boxes from this program. This time we got 250, which was great. Wow. We moved all of the boxes. In addition to doing handing them out to people, we also personally delivered a number of them to people that we knew couldn't make it down there or we heard were not able to make it down there. We conducted the distribution at the transfer station garage, which is the Department of Emergency Homeland Security's or DEMIS's location for distributions during emergencies. So we actually did a live test, if you will, of how we would manage the traffic flow in an emergency situation. So I'll tell you, the Public Works employees, we had 2 of them that worked with us, managing traffic through the transfer station. People entered from the Upton Road entrance, and we had cones set up to segregate them into separate lines as the need arose, considering the number of people coming through. And we made it one-way traffic all the way through the transfer station, up to the garage, and onto Route 74 afterwards. So the process worked great. We had people coming right up to 5 minutes of 6. And that's when we had a couple of boxes left over. We did some more thinking and went, okay, who else could we have missed? And we got those out to people so we didn't have to try and store those boxes someplace else. We didn't really have any good options for that. There was exceptional work done by Melissa McDonough and Public Works. The guys who worked with us were awesome. We got to watch Jordan do his magic with a forklift. It was like a dentist working on you. It's just perfect. And volunteer residents, including Pastor Pat, including a number of residents who volunteered, and they were lifting those 30-pound boxes. So it worked out very, very well. Those are the biggest things I think that have occurred over the last 2 weeks, other than, we had an election and all of that stuff.
Catherine, could I just say, this is the first I've heard about that. I think that's terrific, and everybody involved should be congratulated for that. But I don't know if Roger knew about it, but I had not heard about that. For future reference, could the Board of Selectmen be advised if
You should
there's
have
going to be a
received a mailing.
distribution like that going on? So if we choose to take part, we'd like to do that.
Sure. You should have received a letter.
I did not.
Okay, so we
I don't
sent it
recall
out to
seeing any of it.
everybody who was 65 and older. That's on the.
I'm definitely in that category, but I didn't get a letter.
What
I'm
were you
not there
saying,
yet.
Not there. Definitely, it came up over the last week and a half. And we weren't sure how we were going to do it. We weren't sure how many boxes we were going to get. So, in fact, things got finalized, I believe, on Monday. So next time we'll make sure that you are informed. It didn't occur to me that you wouldn't have known, Bill. So, okay, and if you, yeah.
I mean,
if you wanna
that
comment
goes for
on
both
the
of us. But, Roger may want to participate or not, but
Yeah.
I
I'm
just
not
think a matter of
65 yet.
Sorry? What'd you say, Roger?
I'm not 65 yet.
No,
No, but certainly I would have liked to have participated, certainly in the
Very good. We will do
administration
that
of
the
it.
next time. We'll do that the next time. One of the things we
Excellent.
also did was Melissa chose who the volunteers were going to be. I didn't manage that.
Okay.
She picked the ones that have been volunteers before. It was, well, the distribution was done from 3 to 6 on Friday afternoon. But yep, I will definitely do that going forward. Didn't think of it at the time. That's, I think, all I have for the briefing, other than we heard from on LOSIP. Our LOSIP is the same as it was last year, 52,000 something. It's 52.4, I think it is. So we did get an update on that.
that's a lot better than a cut.
Then what? Then a
I
cut?
said that's a lot better than a cut.
Yeah, it's been 52.4 for a while.
Yeah.
Okay. Next topic. Hear from boards, commissions, committees. I believe I'm assuming we're going to wait on the conversation about the contract with MHR Development in the town of Ashford for the solar roof project until, which is out of the Ashford School Building Committee. So I believe we're going to hear about that under new business. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to move on to acceptance of the minutes of February 16th. Have you had the opportunity to review them, and can somebody make a motion to accept them?
I'll make the motion to accept.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Old business, discuss reopening strategies. Okay, so I've done additional research here, looking at towns that are operating like we are right now, just so you know. Willington, I believe Tolland is, Union, and I think that Killingly is. I did a kind of a circular, go out and try and find their hours of operation. And some of them have not indicated that they are, I'm going to call it, their doors are closed to the public, but in fact, they appear to be. So regardless, I looked at the Advisory Commission on Intergovernmental Relations, their best practices for town and city hall and facility operations. One of the things that they have under there is, it is the obligation of each town to provide a safe/functional work environment for their employees. So it is something we have to keep in mind. I also reviewed the Department of Public Health Safe Workplace Rules for essential employees. It says essential employees who are able to work from home should be working from home. Ensure that the facility has a sufficient number of employees to perform all measures effectively and in a manner that ensure the safety of the public and the employees. Control access to external visitors, including prohibiting entry into the facility for non-essential visitors. interviewing visitors about their current health condition and recent travel history. Social distancing, maintaining 6 feet, which I'm sad to say cannot be accommodated in the hallway where the tax collector, town clerk, and assessor area is. So beyond that, I've also asked the employees to come back with their, to share what they feel needs to be in place in order for us to open. I haven't gotten all of their feedback yet, but they're coming back with some pretty rational things. One of the things that's come back is that all the employees should be vaccinated for COVID, which is now a much more achievable thing time-wise than what we saw before. So that's one. Another one, bear with me, see if I have it here in front of me. Again, they haven't all come into me, so I'm kind of jumping the gun a little bit. But what I do want you to know is they are looking at this. Here's another. By appointment only. Both doors to remain locked at all times. Employee must meet and escort visitors in and out. Restrooms closed to the public or changing to restrooms upstairs for employees only. That may or may not be a good thing. It's a little hard to tell. Masks are mandatory. I will tell you that we have some individuals in town who refuse to wear a mask, whether they're voting, whether they're wherever. Even at the library, we've encountered that. No loitering inside. A sign-in sheet in the lobby for contact tracing, name and phone number. Okay. And then on one per person, let's see, masks and gloves if they go into the vault. They have to be escorted to the vault. So, and again, that's by appointment only. These are just some of the things that have come up so far. And
Catherine, once you think you have all of those, could you just forward that list to Roger and I?
yes, what I'll do is I will forward it in anticipation of a discussion at our next selectmen's meeting.
That'd be great. I wrote down Wellington, Tallinn, and Union. What towns did I miss that you said you checked with?
The where am I here? Let's see. Mansfield is closed to all public-facing activities, public-facing services. Union was a little awkward, as was Killingly, because what I'm finding is people, they're not keeping their websites updated. So definitely. And the other thing that came up, and I think of this as part of reopening and really accommodations for the public, is we had someone who wanted to get, we've been cleaning out the, bear with me, building department records. We've got overfilled files that have information that's no longer needed. And so we've contacted, letters were sent out to people who are the owners and saying that if they wanted to pick up their information, they could come and do that. So we had someone who had a concern because she works during the day and the office hours don't work for her. So what I've done is I've started a conversation with the employees about what we feel would be workable office hours. And what I want to remind you of is when we had office hours that were on Wednesday and we had employees go home at 4 or 4:30 and then come back at 7 and stay till 9, that really wasn't from the employee's perspective. We have people who work here who live out of town. So they were going home and coming back. And what I'm looking at is We also have to look at, from a union perspective, how many hours some of our union employees work. We cannot exceed a certain number during the day. And it actually varies a little bit between the couple of union employees that we have here. So one has 30 hours a week and another has 35. But you can't go over like 10 hours in a day or 9 hours or 8 hours in a day. So one of the thoughts is to change the hours so that we start later and end later on at least a day a week. And so we're talking about that. We're not putting anything out there at this point. So, you know, the public shouldn't jump on this. So we're looking at possibly working on Thursday, starting the day later, working later till 7, although it will be a hardship for the person who took the job as the bear with me, the building clerk, who we did sign a contract with, to change her hours all the way to 7. She said 6 would work for her. She goes to school at night. So we're kind of looking at what kind of flexibility we can offer here. But by and large, I would say that the people that I talked with, which are department heads, and a couple of others, indicated that working on Thursday, having the day be a normal length of hours, but ending the day at 7 would work for them. And that way it would be available to our public to get services after, on the way home from work or whatever. And then Friday, the place would be closed. Today, we're closed on Thursdays. So we actually looked at the different nights. I would have preferred Wednesday night working, for people working to 7, maybe a little bit more along the lines of when we used to do things on Wednesdays. But that would prove to be a hardship for 2 of the employees. So I just want you to know we're looking at how best to accommodate the public, particularly the public who are not able to get here during the day.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that when I looked at the other towns, there are a number of them that don't have any evening hours. Let me see, which is one of them here. Union, they're open 9 to 12 on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and on Wednesday, they're also open from 1 to 3. Killingly, they're open Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 9 to 4, and Tuesday, 9 to 5. And in fact, in Killingly, they take the first 90 minutes. People apparently can come into the building. I haven't had a conversation with their selectmen yet, but they take the first 90 minutes are for the elderly and vulnerable on Tuesday, let me see which day, on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then their hours on Tuesday. And then on Friday, they take the first 60 minutes for the elderly and vulnerable. So it has to be done that way. So, they're different towns are doing different kinds of options right now. I'd like us to consider how we're doing it. And again, I'm getting input from the people who actually work here on how they think it could work. Questions?
Well, to me, I'm sorry.
The ultimate decision will be made by the Board of Selectmen, though, correct?
Absolutely. What I will be doing is coming back with a recommendation, with what's been presented and a recommendation. I'm just giving you a heads up that we're looking at that, because I know it's important that the public, especially the people, typically people can get here during the day. They do come, we do service them during the day. But the thing is that we have some people who can't get here then.
I always liked the Wednesday night because it was like a twofer. You could do the dump and hit the town hall.
Listen to you.
Yeah, I think realistically, Roger, I think there's a lot of people that feel that way.
Yeah.
I've got that feedback myself from people.
Yeah.
But
about them getting a twofer? Wait, about them getting a twofer?
Two for, you know, you could hit the dump and then stop by the town hall. You only had to leave your house once and you could take care of the dump and
Well,
then you
that's
ship at
nice.
the
The
town hall.
employees have to go home and come back
Well,
that live in other towns.
I'm just saying that that's a perception
Yes,
issue.
yeah,
And it's not like, you know, they're doing a long day, but you're saying they're compensated by a shortened or eliminating a day, right? No, or
no,
Friday or whatever it was.
they're already off on Thursdays. They're just
Okay.
changing which day they're off. And on the
Mhm.
day and instead they're working and a day that starts later and ends
Mhm.
later.
Yeah.
But we did find that Wednesdays were a problem.
Mhm.
So, okay, anyway, I will be bringing something to you for consideration. And I believe it will be at the next selectmen's meeting.
Okay.
Any other questions, concerns, comments?
I certainly want to accommodate employees, and I think we have an obligation to look out for them. But my personal feeling is our first obligation is to accommodate the public, and anything that I'm going to be looking at, that's going to be one of my prime considerations.
Well, if we have a night a week that we are here late, that's accommodating the public. It doesn't matter which night it is.
That's a board decision and not just your decision, Catherine. All due
No,
respect.
I'm just sharing, you just shared your opinion, I'm
You're
sharing mine.
voicing an opinion that you've been doing research, and I appreciate that. But I'm trying to let you know my feeling on that. And personally, I've always think it's kind of prehistoric that we're closed on Thursdays, and I'm certainly willing to look at things. But when that decision is finally made, it's going to be made by the Board of Selectmen.
Of course, I
Okay.
believe that's what I was saying and that I'm bringing you the information. The other thing is you need to take into account that we have a contract that in fact, when it comes to the number of hours that people work, we have a limit on the number of hours that people work. So if you're saying that you want this office open 5 days a week, that is now going to change that.
Did you hear me say that?
You said something about you have a problem with us being closed on Thursdays.
No, I said I think it's kind of prehistoric and dates back when our farmers used to bring their cattle to market on Thursdays. I don't mind looking at anything. I have not said let's stay open 5 days a week.
Oh,
I
okay.
said some of the dates that we're dealing with now came about 100 years ago.
Okay, I didn't know that's the day they brought their cows to market. I suspect they're not doing that now.
I
So
doubt.
I would hope we could be somewhat flexible, but thank you. And yes, I absolutely understand that it's a Board of Selectmen decision, which is why I'm telling you about it in advance. And I'm going to bring you the information.
And of course, it's also something that we'll have to sit down as a board in negotiations with the union if we come to changing hours or days or times or any of that.
Yeah, the in the contract, it doesn't have which days. The only one where we have something where it is certain days for this bill for the people who work here is the land use clerk, which we just signed. Okay, and for her, Wednesdays was a hardship for one. So she was one of two. Okay. On that happy note, anything, let's see, that was reopening
Selectmen's
strategy.
briefing, I believe.
And now we're on new business, authorized acceptance of contract between MHR Development and Town of Ashford for phase 1 of a solar roof project at the Ashford School. Memo to the Board of Selectmen from the Ashford School Building Committee attached. Funding for this project was approved by the Board of Finance at their meeting of February 25th. So we are fortunate to have Jim Rupert here. Jim did send out some additional information, which I don't know, Bill, if you've seen it yet. Came out
I
today.
got Jim's letter and everything. I have not seen I guess an estimate or a quotation that Chris said came in the past half hour, but I did read and see the other stuff that came from the building committee.
Okay, let me just take a look here. By the way, just so you know, they closed the, in passing, they closed the town offices in Sterling because an individual came in that tested for positive for COVID. All right, Jim, do you want to speak to what your committee come up with?
So the recommendation of the committee has not changed. What has changed is the breakdown of the proposal from MHR. So what Mark Robbins has done is taken those elements that we had in phase 1 and phase 2 and broken those out into 3 different projects at this point. And that is the information. And so what we would be looking at asking the Board of Selectmen to consider is phase 1 of that 3-phase project. And I don't mean to be confusing, but that's the first 2 phases of the previous information that he shared with us. So he was able to, rework that contract language earlier today. For those of you who have the document in front of you, phase 1 of that proposal is outlined in a box on page 3. And I think page 5 kind of is the bottom line of that proposal. And Mark did apologize for getting us the information late today. Unfortunately, he had an issue with internet and power outage where he was, so it didn't get to me until, I don't know, sometime a little after 6 o'clock, and I forwarded it to Chris, and Chris forwarded it to Bill and Roger.
Okay. I mean, I'm just trying to look at, the budget that as we approved, and I'm looking at our budget proposal. I mean, there's the $17,500 that we approved for the roof replacement, i.e. solar Eversource app. And then there's the other proposed $151,000 for the roof replacement planning and design. And so we're really not talking about a change in the price. It's just how the money's going to be distributed, Jim?
Correct. And the 151 is not, that's kind of out at this point. I know we discussed that at one point, but when we went back to look at that with the capital committee, I went back to the architect, which was Fryer and Associates, and talked to him about it. And he said, look, the best way to structure this now is not to put all of that money out up front. What you really do is you just put out a piece of that, somewhere around $10,000 worth. And then, the rest of it, if the project gets approved by the State Board of Education for the roofing portion of it, at that point, that's when you go out for the rest of it. And you do it that way because you're able to get reimbursement for the project by doing it that way. And the town itself is not on the hook for a lot of money until after the funding mechanism by the town and the State Board of Education is in place.
And the designers get paid.
The designers get paid actually during the course of the project.
Okay.
And the way, and the other thing I bring out talking about that is the way that, and I realize, I think Roger and Bill, you don't have the new proposal in front of you, but
I don't.
The way that Mark has structured this is that, most of that $17,500, if the project goes to bid and gets accepted by people who want to put this project together for us, they will end up reimbursing the town that $17,500.
The contractor will?
Yes.
So if I understand correctly, phase 1, this fee structure, and this is really splitting up. It's not really something that necessarily has to go out to bid because it's split up into amounts that are smaller than that. So phase one is 9,750. That's project development and planning. And then compensation of services in connection with phase one will be paid by the client. Phase two, 7,750. Prepare and host RFP, negotiate agreements, and confirm economics. Cost to be reimbursed by selected PPA investor upon award of contract. And phase three is a range between 12 cents and 15 cents / work DC. I don't know what that one means.
That's per, I think that's per kilowatt.
Thank you. And that's project implementation. That's a one-time fee to be reimbursed by PPA investor / solar system owner, subject to installed system size and complexity. So the cost for phase one services is, again, the 9,750. Payment terms, 50% upon agreement to proceed, 50% upon completion of tasks. And then we go into the other phases. Is that correct?
That's correct. And what that gets us is gets our application in and gets us ready to work on gets this consultant ready to work with our roof designer on the project.
And actually, we have a time frame that we have to get this the application in. So
Right, for this piece of it, that's correct.
Yeah.
and
You
that
have
time
to get
frame
locked into a fee structure or something, or fee that might change, and so that would lock us into the current.
That would lock us into the current fee structure, and forgive me if I've explained this once before, but it is a kind of a difficult concept to grasp. So I'll take a minute and explain it again. What's happening is right now we have if you have a solar array, you have a meter on your house, and that's what they call a net zero meter, and it measures electricity that you use from the grid, and then it measures electricity that you produce and send back into the grid. And so you're charged on the net usage of electricity without any transmission charges, which if you look at your electric bill is about 50% of your electric bill. So one of the things that Eversource is changing in their fee structure is they will now treat you, whether it's a residential property, a school building, a firehouse, or any other commercial structure, they're going to treat you just like the Millstone nuclear power plant. They're going to buy energy from you at wholesale prices and sell it back to you at retail prices, including the transmission fees. So, they've decided that they're losing way too much money on the current ZREC program. So they're changing the rules. And the idea behind, getting this piece of the project funded quickly is so that we can get our ZRECs approved before they change those contract rules.
and the date that we're marching towards in terms of getting the application in.
I don't know the exact date, but I know there was a date in April that we need to meet.
Yeah.
Are we talking there, Jim, about the 17,500?
It is the 17,500, but Mark has looked at the project a little more, and he split that up into that 17.5 from 2 separate phases into 3 separate phases that actually work better for our project flow.
Is my recollection correct, or was that money going to be allotted from the unexpended fund balance at the school?
The Board of Finance actually has already approved that.
Okay.
At their last meeting.
After we approved, they approved.
They did approve that?
They
Yes.
did.
So, Catherine, do we need a motion? I mean, it sounds like these are things we've already hashed out.
We're authorizing acceptance of this contract.
That specific contract.
Yes,
But as far as funding goes, that's all in place
we're all set.
It
and
is.
everybody's on board.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks very much, Jim.
Very much
Appreciate all your work.
Yeah,
You're very
lots of
welcome.
good work. Thank you. I would like to entertain adding an item to the agenda. I called you both about it. It has to do with, the item would be option to grant exemption.
I will make the motion to add it to the agenda.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. All right.
Catherine, I've read through the materials and I thank you for getting them to us. What type of motion do you figure we're looking for here? Because in reading through that, it seems like Kara is asking for kind of direction on our
Yep.
feelings on this so that she can then ask the company that she's referring to put in a letter to formally request it. Am I reading that right or wrong?
Actually, they've already submitted the exemption. They submitted it late. So I'm sorry, their declaration they sent in late. And what we would be doing is approving that exemption.
See, I guess where I'm confused on page 2 of her
Yep.
memo, second paragraph from the bottom, it says, if the Board of Selectmen agrees to entertain the request for the exemption, we will inform the company that they can submit the request. That's why I had the impression they had not submitted it yet.
Okay, bear with me.
Page 2,
Yeah, I
second
got it.
paragraph.
They did not file this year on time, nor did they whatever. Bear with me, because I could have sworn she said they sent their declaration by email on February 16th. Okay, so I think you could be correct, okay? So they sent their declaration of their property, I guess, by February
Yeah,
16th.
because she goes on to say this inquiry is being made on their behalf without their knowledge because the
Right.
tax may be detrimental to the company's continuing, goes on to that. So I have the impression that they have not formally filed that yet.
No,
Uh,
and what I didn't
I'm-
want her to do was go out to that company and speak for the town without putting it in front of the selectmen
Yeah,
to.
I mean,
make-
I'm favorable to entertaining them submitting whatever Kara says that they need to,
The
but
normal exemption.
I don't know how we move on that tonight without having that request formally from the company.
Um, she needs to be able to make the offer. So I wanted to make sure that you weighed in on us actually extending that offer, because we shouldn't extend an offer to a company without having about an exemption, without having an agreement amongst ourselves.
Would a motion indicating that we are receptive to consideration of that
Yep.
and that we ask the assessor to go forward with her recommendation
I think that's
Re-
perfect.
to request that the company resubmit?
Yes.
That's what Bill wants, I'm willing to second it.
Okay. Okay. And that is to, offer number 4, add the new items, grant the exception, and remove the penalty for net assessment. So it brings them back to a regular, a normal number.
I think that's only fair. And I just, when you talk with the assessor,
Mhm.
if you just ask her, I know that she references that the hardship, as her understanding is, that COVID did involve part of the rationale why they're out of sync on this thing.
Yeah,
We don't need them to elaborate, but if they could just indicate that, I think that'd be good for the record.
perfect. And I will tell you that it was the assessor who came with all of this. I just asked her to write it up so that you would have everything in front of you.
No, I think
Yep.
she did a fine job with that, and I appreciate the
Yep.
concept, and
Absolutely.
I think
Yep.
I think we're all acting in good faith on this thing, and
So do we have a second to Bill's motion?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Motion passes. Thank you. And I'm really glad that that went that way. Remarks for the good of the board.
No, we have to add tax refunds, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can we entertain another motion to add tax refunds? We have two.
I'd like to hear what they are.
If we have a motion to talk about it, we can do that. So we need to add that agenda.
I'll make a motion to add tax to the agenda, tax refunds, excuse me.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, tax refunds. Take it away.
Yeagle Technologies in the amount of $78.65, citing CGS 12-129. And this is a Toyota lease trust for $762.51, also citing CGS 12-129.
And if I recall, one of them.
Right, those are overpayments. 12-129 is overpayment.
Thank you. So they were just purely overpayments.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Very good.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah, aye. Motion passes. Okay, thank you. Remarks for the good of the board. Anything?
Could I ask that our next agenda reflect consideration of opening the two sheds at the transfer station, perhaps on April 1st? If we don't have a surge or any more numbers coming that reflect that we shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, I think that I will definitely put that on the agenda. The other thing I wanted to say about that, I think I mentioned it before. When we open those sheds, we need to take into account what's really going to happen. And what's really going to happen is you're going to have a lot of people bringing a lot of stuff to the sheds. You're also going to have a lot of people going through the stuff in the sheds. It's not all going to fit in the sheds. So what I think I had mentioned before was it might be a good idea to have a special event at the transfer station where people do bring things, whether it's like one big kind of free tag sale or whatever, but not
Swap
have it
meet.
physically, sorry, a swap meet.
Swap meet. Ashford swap meet.
And I know we'll talk about it at our
Free
next,
swap
As
meet.
long as I could bring things and not bring things home.
there you go. But you also, so when we go to talk about this, I am hoping that what you'll consider is that where we're going, how we're going to do this. Okay, there's a logistical issue around it that we're going to have to deal with. The other thing is that for those things which are not taken, there will probably be quite a few. And that what we're going to have to do is we're going to have transfer station workers clean up that. So
And I remember everything you said the last time, and I agree, and that's why I said let's bring it up at the next meeting
you got
to
it.
talk about the mechanics of it. But the principle of the idea of things are going to be brought in mass it's going to happen sooner or later. And no matter what we do, we're going to end up getting a barrage of stuff there. People have been doing like my household has been doing, holding things back. But I'd like to at least have it on the agenda, and hopefully we could work out where we'd have a policy in place to implement it April 1st.
Aye.
Actually, we can put it on the agenda. I'm a little concerned about giving a date because people will start to think that that's when it's going to happen. And if we don't come to agreement, they're going to.
You don't need a date on the agenda just to talk about it, but I'm just being candid with you. I'd like to shoot for that date if it makes sense to the three of us.
All right,
Yeah.
We'll see what we can work out. I might have our public works foreman also in that
I
meeting.
have no problem with that.
It might be a
Excellent.
good idea because I think he should be party to the conversation.
Mhm.
Figure out how we can manage it. Okay, good. Great. Any other remarks for the good of the board?
Catherine, I'd just like to congratulate you on the election. I know you worked hard at it, and I think we should all be proud of it. From what I've been able to hear historically, it's the largest turnout for a special election in town.
And yet people were complaining, saying that people didn't get out to vote.
Well, it was the largest turnout that in the history that we were able to look up in the town's history for a special election. So,
Yeah,
but congratulations again.
thank you. It was a hard run race for both of us.
It was.
Okay,
I
and
move adjournment.
second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye and goodbye. Thank you.
Good night, folks. Stay safe.
Good night.
Thanks again, Jim.